Okay, guys, so just to reiterate what we've been working on lately and kind of thinking about was um, when John would move relatively freely, not trying to teach something in particular or like work on a particular thing with a particular person. Um, what did he tend to do? Extremely loose and united, obviously, right? But also with the contact, very rarely any like pushing or anything like that. Everything was basically like just very loose impact everywhere and nowhere, wherever it needed to be. In addition to that, all of those impacts, wherever they might be, all right, like was he going out of his way to get to the neck if other stuff was going on? Not necessarily, because every impact, no matter where it would be in such a way to immediately disrupt your balance. Right? It wasn't just a matter of, oh, an arm's here, he's gonna like push it out of the way or something. No, he was going with his whole body in a way that totally disrupted your balance. If there were two bodies coming together, wherever the first contact might happen to be, boom, it would be in a way that would totally disrupt your balance and enable him to do basically whatever he wanted without much fear, right? Yeah, you probably all seen like stuff where John just, it looks like he's just kind of standing there, just kind of wiggling around using one arm, with like seemingly no fear, no matter how like intense the other guy was. Again, that's because as soon as there was any sort of contact anywhere, the other guy was immediately off balance and then just kind of like bouncing in between what was going on. Right? Anyone who had the experience of working with Tim, right, is a little bit different, but it's basically from here, as soon as there's any movement, you basically just feel like a pinball machine going back and forth. You're like the ball in the pinball machine bouncing back and forth between what Tim was doing, because Tim had the nice long arms, but basically that same concept. Was Tim spending a lot of time pushing or stopping or suppressing? No, didn't have energy for that, right? or as John said, if it takes effort, it's bullshit. How do you get rid of the effort? If you're truly loose and you can use your whole body together, boom, just using the bones in such a way that everything penetrates to the balance, and then just like kind of like bounces off from there. It's much easier to deal with a guy if Joe's a big tough guy and I like push his arm out of the way, but he's still, or that happens, right? I try to push his arm out of the way and that happens, but he still has balance to freaking hit me in the face. That's dangerous. I'm not going to necessarily be able to deal with that, right? But if Joe's putting his hands up and the first thing that happens is something that just throws his balance off, at that moment, Joe, are you able to like punch me in the face effectively from there? Yeah, I mean, he might try, but it might. Oh, I'm sorry.
It's all right.
Right? And again, it's not a matter of hitting hard. Because if we're here and I try to hit Joe hard that way, notice his body's fine. It's a matter of using your entire skeleton as one. It doesn't even.
I'm sorry. No, you're good.
It doesn't. It's not even a matter of like hitting harder or less hard, whatever. It's a matter of I could hit Joe hard here, but notice he's still on his feet and he still will just look at me and like hit me into the next county. But if I use my whole body and it's going through Joe, and again, John was able to do this from literally anywhere, like arms reach, fingertip, like just from the sensitivity, he was moving his body just enough offline, but still using the whole thing, such that if anything was moving, that was enough to affect the balance, and then he just went from there. So that even if like the other guy was planning to maybe hit me with the other hand or whatever, it wasn't quite there because of the lack of balance. Thanks for the acting, Joe.
Yeah, well, I actually did slip, and I just said I'm dying.
All right,
my dying.
But here's the thing: is this like a move you can practice? Is this like a technique you should we stand here all day like Joe comes in and I just practice like getting him off balance? Not really, because it's going to be something different every time. How do you actually get that? You do contact flow, very lightly and slowly, getting rid of any inclination to like try to push or suppress, because what'll happen to you if you work with Joe, right? But just staying very loose and light, and just accept that at this kind of speed, all these little like contacts and nudges and like not even impacts at this speed, right? Because we're going slow enough, but just acknowledge that all of this counts. All of this is real, and your body's learning from it, and so that if we do go just a little bit faster and just let it go a little more loose, again, like just and you notice the importance of staying loose now, because if we are using the whole body and these things are happening, this is how we retain our balance, right? If I get the least bit stiff in the middle of this,
Yeah.
You feel that? My balance is immediately gone. Not because Joe was like, "Huh," anything like that. No, but because if he's moving his whole skeleton together and I have any stiffness and things like come together, that immediately disrupts my whole body. And then Joe doesn't even need to do anything. He just needs to keep moving and just stay relaxed. You can see where this is going, right? So, hence, why you need to learn to stay totally loose, and your body will just start picking this stuff up. Joe and I were just discussing, like, you know, this kind of, like, moving with people and, like, you know, people trying to damage him and him damaging others, that was more natural to John than, like, walking fast, right? Or, like, you know, or just as natural as, you know, looking around and breathing. You know, same level of comfort and familiarity. So, how do you get that? Plenty of this in the right spirit. And again, not trying to. Right? You notice if I'm like focusing, if I'm like using force or trying to like force stuff, doesn't even matter who's winning or losing, hitting, getting hit, anything like that. I'm just not learning, right? And I'm wasting my time. Not totally. I'm still getting better at something. But if you really want to, if we want to keep kind of like the really top level of this kind of stuff in mind, good news is you really only need to do what John said and kind of not deviate too much from it, because that's the idea. Just trying to move with everything. So when we do contact flow, we're going to try to keep all the contact as fleeting as possible, right? So we're not going for this like pushing, grinding contact. We're not like doing some variation of Tai Chi push hands. No. We're going to stay as light as we possibly can with our whole body, which means, right, anything that's touching us anywhere, whether it's the arms or anywhere else, we're just trying to stay as unavailable as possible, except the contact. Don't get pissed off about it. If the contact happens to be on your face, then just try to move with it so it's very light, okay? And at the same time, we're not looking for any pushing or control. We're just looking for what would be impact at speed, right? And at this speed, it won't really be impactful. It'll just be, you know, little touches, little taps that, again, we try to move with and stay fluid with. Make sense? All right, and then hopefully at that point, again, even anything, even first contact. So like, as you get more advanced, it's not just a matter of if he's coming at me, I want to go for a vital organ or whatever. I mean, that's good, that's important, but I want to go to a vital organ in such a way that it's going to immediately take his balance away, not just hurt him. You're never depending on hurting the guy. This is why John told all these stories about all these crazy, big, tough dudes who would just not go down. You know, broken skulls, broken everything, shot several times, they just weren't going down. Get it through your head. Just hurting the guy, just like, you know, doing something that you think will damage him, that's good, that's progress. It's not enough, but if you can always be moving such that even while you're doing that, you're also stopping him from having his balance, that's more where it's at, right? Doesn't matter how big or strong a guy is, that strength, speed, whatever, can only be fully expressed if he has good leverage against the ground. In other words, he has balance. If he doesn't have good leverage against the ground, still dangerous, but he cannot express that full strength and speed to nearly the same degree. Make sense? So, very long-winded way of saying, let's do some nice, light, mindless, no judgments, no pushing, no emotions, contact flow. Sound good?
8 minutes and 43 seconds.
Too long, but